mine's
There we
on.
go. Madam Clerk, could you lead us through a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Barlow,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Diaz,
Here.
Commissioner Herrero,
Here.
Commissioner Ellingson. Here. Director Letowski,
Here.
Chairman Lingenfelter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That brings us to item number 4 on our agenda this morning, which is approve the December 4th, 2025 Public Lands and Recreation Commission action minutes. Does anyone have any comments on those? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
If there's no comments, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I just appear to have it, so ordered. Thank you. For information only, item number 5, staff update on the Short Creek Valley Bike Skills Park development in Colorado City, Arizona, up north in District 1. I believe Director Letowski, you may have a slide presentation.
Yes, I do. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm just going to step to the podium and deliver.
Thank you.
Okay, the presentation should be able to be put up on the screen here shortly. Yes. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. I just wish to bring you all up to speed on the very recent yet very fast-paced developments surrounding the Short Creek Valley Bike Skills Park in the Colorado City area. We've been very fortunate to be approached by Wheel Fund, a nonprofit organization that has a substantial experience in developing these types of no-fee bike park type facilities for Arizona youth. And I think with the community of Colorado City and the many residents that have really been laying the groundwork, I should say, for this to happen, and identifying a very prime piece of property, private property or trust property that can facilitate a very impressive bike skills park to be developed. Things have been moving along quite impressively, and with the support of our Board of Supervisors, the county is now a partner in this process. So just to provide a brief overview, this is a slide kind of showing the property location. You'll see it the highlighted in turquoise on the far east end of the Colorado City area. It's about an 11-acre parcel. If I move on, staff did last year develop just a very rough sketch of the skills park as it would lay out. There's actually a right-of-way that comes off of Johnson Avenue, so the northern part of that parcel would probably serve as more the parking and staging area. But the park is anticipated to include flow trails, pump track, as well as a very long single track, which I think this property really lends to. I'll show you some photos here in a second. What really stands out is I was up there walking all of the property, every bit of it, last Saturday. So it was extremely impressive to me. It's got a lot of natural features, as you can see there in the photo, but I'll just kind of walk you through what it kind of looks like. So this is a photo from the northwest, kind of where the staging area would be, kind of looking southeast across the property. A couple of photos here from the center part of the property, first looking back north. You can kind of see the undulations in that, but there's a tremendous amount of area, I think, to work with in developing tracks. This is, again, from the central part of the property looking back to the south, so the remaining 5 acres to the south. As I move down towards the southerly part of the property, this is the view looking back north, and then some of the interior of the property. I kind of highlighted before, there's a lot of nice natural features I think are really conducive to developing particularly that longer track for the skills park. One element feature of this property that really jumped out to me was probably about a 50-foot elevated rise that you could actually consider developing some sort of a hub or some level of maybe a observation area or something. It's easy to walk up to, but it's something that is kind of right in this north center part of the property that I think the track could actually kind of work its way around. So this is just a summary between the recent memorandum of understanding that our Board of Supervisors did pass on March 2nd, this past Monday. Wheel Fund will take the lead and responsibility for project design and construction, as well as all the financing opportunities. Mojave County is going to play a pivotal role towards being a sponsor for any grant opportunities that Wheel Fund identifies, as well as accepting the property for after project completion and being a long-term steward for the property. So that's where our park staff and that will be looking for means and ways for the park to be self-sufficient, but in a state of being in a high-quality type of function as part of it being turned over after project completion. And then another key element, and something that I'm personally working on right now, is I'm having discussions with the Bureau of Land Management. And I'm going to take you through my last remaining 3 slides of an abutting property. It's about a 7.5 acre property that BLM has that's still outside of their wilderness area. In fact, I'll bring it up here. This is a slide that actually shows the topography of the property. So the yellow is a BLM held property that could be a qualifying property for what's called a recreation and public purposes lease. That is a common mechanism by which government agencies like Mojave County can obtain a long-term lease of federally managed lands and federally managed lands for purposes of government facilities or parks and recreation, type development. So it's a very advantageous mechanism for the county to develop. As you can see here in the white, that is actually the wilderness area. What you'll see there with some of the topography is kind of a mountainous area, and that you'll see that right away in this next photo. So, and this next photo is kind of an overview. I'm actually taking this from that elevated area of the park property, and you can see there are the mountains. So that's actually the wilderness area where you see the mountains. And I circled in yellow kind of the BLM property that could be an option for Mojave County to work with BLM towards developing potentially a revenue generating lodging type companion use to the Bike Skills Park. That's a discussion that I will have and be bringing back to our Board of Supervisors as far as options. It's too preliminary to really share exactly what the BLM position is, but lodging, especially on a campground type of lodging, could be a viable option for BLM, and there may be an allowance for revenue generating, provided that all revenue generated for such a use stays with the property. So, and that would be most understandable. If we, charge fees that would be over and above the operation of the park, we would simply create a reserve fund to, reinvest into the park as we move forward. So as I wrap up here, this is actually my final slide. This is just a typical landscape of the BLM property. It's rather rolling, not too different than the park property itself. Has quite a bit of vegetation, so vegetation removal would probably come into play, but I think there is an opportunity, depending upon what BLM will ultimately accept, to be able to work around the natural landscape to develop something that's very aesthetically appealing, as well as quite functional and a great companion use to the park. I should also point out in closing that BLM does advocate that if this property were to be used simply for recreation purposes, park and recreation, not a revenue generating use, it would be more of a fast track for the county to potentially have the RP&P lease. We will likely have to undergo a pretty extensive environmental assessment in order to clear it for another more lodging related use. But nonetheless, I'll have those discussions and be anxious to report back to the board, and of course this commission as well. So I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Director Lukowski. I open it up to the commissioners. Any questions? Commissioner Diaz.
Did you say we would lease that area, that circle, possibly lease that from BLM?
That is correct, Commissioner Diaz. That is the mechanism that the BLM actually has for government agencies, and it would be a long-term lease.
And I know we have Site 6 we were talking about earlier, and Havasu is leased by Havasu from BLM. All the money he needs to go back into BLM in Site 6 updates and, upkeep and so forth. So similar situation, correct?
Oh, Commissioner Diaz, you described it perfectly. That's exactly the BLM focus, that any revenue-generating element on this property would have to see all those funds invested back into the property.
And it kind of piggybacks on something that I was made aware of a couple of weeks ago. I think it's, hold on, I have it here on my phone. I want to make sure I did it properly. I'm not sure if it, Jeannie might know that. I don't know if it passed through the House or if it got dead in the water, but the HB 2913, where they're talking about having, each county would have a county land commissioner. I know I brought it up to Roxanne, and she said the county attorney said it'd be better for a board of supervisors subject matter, and then down the road it might get funneled down to this commission. But, because we have a lot of BLM land and Arizona State Trust land that sometimes we don't know what's going on until it happens, and I think we need to know what's going on. It's like it really affects our community. So I appreciate this presentation.
Thank you.
And did we have an update, Jeannie? Do you know if that?
The last committee it passed, so
Okay.
I don't know where it's going, I'll be honest.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Commissioner Barlow?
Yeah, so I'd like to make a few comments. So this is literally in my backyard.
Yes.
I grew up on this very land. The high rise that you talk about, we dubbed it Yellow Rock, and that's where we sat to watch to make sure that Mom wasn't coming to find us. But the cool part about this park is it's coming to our community at a time where we're trying to find a unity. That community's been divided forever, but bikes in particular have brought the young people together, and that's why I say we were looking out to see if the parents were coming, because we literally could not associate. It was that bad. So to see that it's coming to a point where it's a public place that we can come and interact, it's just going to bring that community together, and I have not heard anybody say anything negative about this project. Everybody's looking forward to it, so I'm excited to see it happen, and I just want to thank Will Fund, Mojave County Supervisor Lincoln Felder in particular. There's a lot of people in the community that have worked on this project that their names will probably never be known. And I just want to say thank you to them for bringing this out. So,
Appreciate those comments. Any other discussion or comments?
I have a couple, oh, go ahead.
Commissioner Ellington, and then we'll go to
Thank
Guerrero.
you. I actually had done some research and found that the Candors had a big group up there for mountain biking and recreation, and so I thought was like, oh, well, this would be a great use for that. I'm not exactly sure who my question is for, but I was wondering in terms of the county's partnership and kind of taking over the future maintenance of the park, how much that would be kind of annually if we had an estimate. And then I know that there's a couple different private parks, like I know the one in Mojave Valley is a private park and kind of funded through nonprofits and donations. So what's kind of the selection process? Is it just through the Board of Supervisors in order to kind of make that partnership take over? So again, some convoluted questions, not sure who's the best person to answer.
Chairman Lingenfelter, Commissioner Ellington, I do want to express that I think we'll learn a little bit more about the maintenance costs as the design and construction process goes on. I'm sure the staff at the Wheel Fund will probably be able to advise us a little closer. I do want to point out, though, that there are state grants, namely the Recreational Trails Fund grant, that should provide an avenue by which a county could possibly apply for and receive almost at 100%. It's usually like about 94% funding of future maintenance. So we're hoping that between Wheel Fund and Mojave County during this development time that we'll be able to identify those maintenance funds so that we can keep the park just as it was constructed.
Excellent, thank you.
Commissioner Herrero?
Thank you for the presentation. Will there be included any financing or any funds available for like restrooms, maybe some parking for parents to bring the younger kids to the area, stuff like that?
Chairman Lingenfelter, Commissioner Herrero, I would anticipate first that yes, certainly parking would be a key consideration with staging and unloading and offloading of bikes, et cetera. With regard to a restroom, I'm not sure if that's going to be factored into this particular design, but it's certainly an element that I think deserves strong consideration in the design process to make sure that it's kind of a self-sufficient park. Some of these races, et cetera, if there's more organized activities, would really benefit from that versus portable restrooms. So we'll look into that in the design process.
Right, and water would be included in that, like a fountain or some sort of access for the kids to drink?
I would anticipate, Commissioner Herrero, that and I'm not very familiar with the Colorado City water system, but I would assume with very developed areas abutting this park that there would be access to convenient access to water facilities that could be developed as well into the program. Good
Thank
questions.
Thank you again for your presentation. As the District 1 Supervisor, this project is very, very important to me. Thankful for Will Fund, the UEP Trust, who's actually donating the land, and then all of the other stakeholders that are a part of this project. It's been a good project to advocate for. Those of you that are familiar with Mojave County, so we have the 5th largest geographically, we're the 5th largest in the whole country. Out of that, District 1, it's almost like if you draw a line right down the middle of our county, everything to the east of that line, all the way up to the Utah border, is District 1. It's 65% of Mojave County and 8,700 square miles, which is larger than some actual U.S. states. But curious, when I started to look at this, you got all that land, and the county didn't have one county park in District 1. So this is the first county park in Mojave County District 1. We have Wallapai Mountain Park, that's in District 4. We have other community parks in the other districts. This is the first county parks presence in District 1. I'm very proud of that. I'm glad that so far there's really not going to be a big obligation as far as monetary obligation for Mojave County. It did just get an award of community development block grant funding from the county. But aside from that, they're going to be working on different grants to fund this design and the construction of this project. I do think that the public purpose lease from BLN and actually trying to get maybe some camping or some sort of a revenue producing thing. I mean, our Parks Department in general is run as an enterprise fund, which means that it has to pay for itself. So that just makes good sense to me if we're going to do that up there. I think that you mentioned the Mojave Valley Park. I mean, there was a partnership there too, but I think if I remember correctly, the Board of Supervisors approved a 3-year donation of funding to that, up to $150,000 or something like that of county funds. Is that not correct?
$75,000 per year, $225,000 total.
So we're not there on this park yet, and hopefully we won't have to go there, but I'm thankful that Mojave County sees value in our parks and that we're willing to put a little bit of money towards them. So if there's no other questions, we'll go to, excuse me,
I have a
Commissioner Barlow.
Questions, sorry. So I was just curious, what is the time frame for starting construction on this project? And also I would answer that question about water and utilities. The utilities are literally 100 feet away from that project. It's on the other side of that dike, the water dike there. So utilities aren't going to be a problem as far as cost. It's just a couple sticks of pipe. So, but I was mainly curious about construction. What's the timeline looking like?
Director?
Chairman Lingenfelter, Commissioner Barlow, I would anticipate that we will learn a lot more about the schedule as soon as Wheel Fund has a design consultant underway. Just my experience with these types of projects, I would say 12 months would be a conservative allowance for construction. So if design were to get underway, say by the middle part of this year, perhaps a 6-month design process, I suspect permitting is not going to be difficult, in fact, quite streamlined. So I would hope to see this project under construction through the better part of next year and hopefully brought to a successful completion.
I think it's a win for everybody. Thank you. With that, we'll move to item number 6 on our agenda for information only. We'll be getting a county attorney's office update on the recently enacted Baj National Monument. Attorney Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll give a brief update. So this case was filed by a series of plaintiffs, the lead plaintiff being the Arizona State Legislature, including Mojave County, to challenge the Baj ancestral footprints of the Grand Canyon National Monument, which was enacted by the Biden administration under the Antiquities Act of 1906. The Mojave County's case, as are, I believe, all of the plaintiffs, are consolidated in one outside counsel, Justin Smith and Michael Talent. The complaint that was filed on behalf of all the plaintiffs was dismissed by the trial court on January 27th of 2025. It was appealed shortly thereafter. Currently, oral arguments were heard from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on February 3rd of 2026. The case has been submitted to the Ninth Circuit for review, and once a decision comes out, depending on the outcome of that decision, either side, be it the plaintiffs or the United States or any of the other interveners, may appeal that to the United States Supreme Court.
Thank you. Any comments on that? Commissioner Diaz, thank you.
When it was originally dismissed, what was they just thought it was, there was no, nobody was getting, let me rephrase that. When it was dismissed, they felt that it was justified to make it a monument like they did? Well, what was it? Why was it dismissed, I guess I'm trying to ask.
The reason the trial court gave in their order was that none of the plaintiffs had standing to sue. Standing in federal courts is progressively a more narrow. The Supreme Court, pretty much every time a standing issue comes before the Supreme Court, they make it more narrow, and so it has to be a concrete claim, et cetera, et cetera. And so the overall reasoning for all of the plaintiffs from the trial court was that none of them possess standing at this time to bring a suit.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments? So, appreciate that. I think standing is kind of one of those things that judges use to get out of tough spots where they're going to have to make a tough call on something. And when you're challenging something like the Antiquities Act, you know, if you can claim standing, it's probably better for you if you're a judge. You have to show actual harm, I think, to demonstrate standing, right? And that is, if the National Monument goes in and there's more tourists that come, is it going to be a hardship on your law enforcement or, you know, as far as public access ways? I mean, I'm trying to compile all those actual harms that Mojave County might see, because half of this is within Mojave County, District 1. So I'm working with Development Services. I know that I've been working with Public Works, asking them if there are any sort of potential harms that we can submit to the state legislature as they continue to fight this. I think the goal anyways is to get it in front of the Supreme Court and hopefully picked up by the Supreme Court, because it's not just Mojave County, it's not just Arizona, a lot in the West, Utah and others. Utah tried to file a very large case on this very issue about putting some guardrails on the use of the Antiquities Act by presidents, that there should be some sort of a congressional process to enact national monuments, and not just, you know, one person sticking a pin in a map and designating 1 million acres as a national monument. Is that really appropriate? Because I don't think that was really the intent of the initial act. And to give people a little bit more history about kind of how this is all morphed. So in 1984, there was a bipartisan piece of legislation that passed Congress called the Arizona Wilderness Act. It was negotiated and passed in a bipartisan manner back then, and it said these lands are going to be set aside for conservation, and these lands are going to be still open for multiple use and grazing and mining, even mining. Then we saw in the early 2010, 2011, 2012, we saw the Obama administration and their Secretary of Interior, Ken Salazar. They went through an EIS process and did a 20-year moratorium on uranium mining up in that area. They basically did that moratorium, citing that they didn't have enough data on water quality and some of the things at the time, and so they did this moratorium to pause mining so that they could gather more data on water quality, if uranium mining was having an adverse effect on water quality in the area and things like this. 4 separate offices of the USGS actually came together and did a study on water quality. If anybody watching wants a copy of that, just contact the District 1 office. We'll give you the link to that. It's a USGS study. You can probably just even go online and find that if you knew the right search terms, but we have a copy of that. And it came back and said that in accordance with science that these 4 USGS offices used, that the water quality was not being harmed adversely by uranium. And then we saw in 2023 where the Biden administration worked with a bunch of environmental groups and some Tucson congressional officials to enact the Baj Monument in 2023. And since then, we've been fighting it. So we'll continue to fight it as long as there's an opportunity to fight that. We don't think it's appropriate use of the Antiquities Act. I know that when President Trump came into office last year, the first thing he did was declare a national energy emergency. And then he directed his Secretary of Interior, Doug Burgum, to review an initial six national monuments as far as whether those monuments needed to be, those boundaries need to be adjusted. I think including in our area, those that were included were Bears Ear, Escalante, Baj. If you remember the first term that Trump had, he did reduce the size of both Escalante and Bears Ear. So they're looking at those two again. They're also looking at Baj. We haven't heard exactly when the administration would take action on those initial six, but they're looking at those through a lens of domestic energy production. Those that are familiar with the military and our nuclear navy, the military is not allowed to procure or purchase foreign supplies of uranium. We have to get those supplies domestically. And there's differing accounts about how much uranium we have left before that stockpile is depleted. And so I think that the Trump administration has been very, very forward-thinking in how do we make sure that we solidify that supply chain for our nuclear navy and other, domestic needs. As we see these modular reactors coming on board and other things like this, we're going to need to have supplies of domestic uranium. There's no reason why we should be buying uranium from countries like China or Russia through China, and it's just contrary to our national security goals. So I appreciate the update on that. Attorney Davis? Commissioner Diaz.
Yeah, just one more thing, and I believe I know the answer to this. I'll let you talk about it because you were involved heavily with this, and I appreciate that. But also, during this whole process in 2023, when the Tucson delegation got involved with the Indian tribes and our governor at the time, and our group, our voices were kind of shut out of that whole conversation, were they not? We didn't get a chance to even attend some meetings and give our input, correct?
Yeah, that is largely correct. So I thought it was funny as a locally elected official, when a president uses the Antiquities Act, and here we're going to designate, almost 1 million acres. I think the original thought was over 1 million acres, and they shrunk it down a little bit. But there really isn't a requirement for to follow Administrative Procedures Act or any sort of public process. They had a little bit of a public process, and they called that their public process. And what that was they went and had one meeting in Flagstaff. It was a few hours long. Myself and a few other delegates, elected officials from Mojave County had to make the trip over to Flagstaff to speak. They had the room crammed with extreme left-wing activists, and it was strange that they gave all of the tribal members there at the meeting. They got to speak first. All of the folks on the support side of the monument got to speak first as far as elected officials, and those of us that had contrary views. We had some ranchers there from Mojave County. We had some other interests from Mojave County. Our elected officials, our ranchers had to wait and speak last after everybody else, which I thought was a little disrespectful, but that's the way they ran the process. And then had to literally reach out and beg through our senators. We reached out to Senator Kelly to say, hey, half of this monument is in Mojave County. Don't you think we ought to have an opportunity for our citizens to comment too? And what we got out of that was a 30-minute Teams meeting with a member of Senator Kelly's office and a member of Senator Sinema's office at the time, a member from the White House, I forgot what that gentleman's name was, members of the Department of Interior. They gave us 30 minutes and cut us off right at 30 minutes, and that was their opportunity from Mojave County. So yeah, not a very balanced process at all. And I think process does matter when you're doing stuff like that. So it was unfortunate that they handled it that way. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Attorney Davis. Thank you, everyone. We'll move to item number 7. So we were supposed to have an overview of public lands and secure rural schools program today. Unfortunately, those that are prepared to speak on that with the data are not in today. I'm not going to ask our clerk to cover that item. So if it's okay with everybody, we'd like to continue this item to our June public lands meeting. Does that? Yeah, so I'm looking for a motion, if we could, commissioners, to move this item to our June public lands meeting.
I'll support that motion to move it to the June meeting.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioners. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you. That moves us to number 8 on our agenda, Commissioner comments and requests for agenda items for future meetings. We'll just go right down the line if we could. District 1, Commissioner Barlow. Okay. District 2, Commissioner Bob Smith.
Chairman, yes, one thing that I want to have looked into this weekend on Saturday, I was out with some friends in our Jeeps that are from out of the area, and we wanted to go explore the old Surbat Township, which used to be the county seat at one time. We pull up there, and there's a big iron gate across the road with road closed, private property do not enter. It did have a padlock and a steel box that was not locked. I felt like going on through to find out what's going on, but then with the group I was with from out of the area, I didn't think that would be appropriate at the time. But I know when this commission was formed, it was actually formed because BLM wanted to come in and close down over half of all of our trails in Mojave County. And the commission worked real hard with BLM, and we got it sent back to Washington, D.C. With that in mind, I'd like to see if we couldn't get some research done on this. I know when we did this the first time, Director Lekowski's information was invaluable. He did such a great job, and I don't know if those notes are still available for what byways, but by having this gate across there, it closes off quite a few trails that the off-roaders use. It closes off the old graveyard, which I know there's a statute that says you cannot block access or egress from a graveyard, an old established, and it's an old historic site that now nobody can go in there. So I'm going to work with BLM. I've tried to get into BLM and find out some more about it. I'll continue to do that. And I would ask if Director Lekowski could find out if he still has his old notes from back with all the routes in that area, because they wanted to close everything at that time, and we beat it.
That's great. If you would work with both the clerk's office and also Director Lekowski to put an item on our next agenda, we'll make sure that
Yes,
We have
thank
a
you.
report. Thank you. Commissioner Diaz.
I have nothing right now. Thank
Great.
you.
Commissioner Herrero.
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Ellingson.
No comments today, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from staff? We want to thank Treasurer, Assessor Kench. Always great to see you, and we're thankful that you're part of this. Thank you to our new Parks Administrator, Mr. Bo Helms. Thank you to Planning and Zoning Manager, Matt Gunderson. Thank you for being here. And with that, I think we are adjourned. Thank you very much.